To truly understand how to unlock the deepest levels of pleasure for a woman, you first have to understand her body in a way that goes beyond the surface, because female anatomy is a masterpiece of intricate design, packed with thousands of nerve endings that can create waves of ecstasy when stimulated with precision and care, and the clitoris is the undeniable epicenter of this pleasure, holding more than 8,000 nerve endings in just its visible tip, with branches running deep into the body, meaning that pleasure is not just about what you see, but also about what you can't see. And every movement, every angle, every rhythm matters because the right kind of stimulation sends ripples through the entire nervous system, flooding the brain with dopamine and oxytocin, creating both physical and emotional connection. And the G-spot, often misunderstood, is actually part of the clitoral network internally, a spongy area just a couple of inches inside the vaginal wall that swells with blood when aroused, becoming highly sensitive to pressure and rhythmic touch, and positions that align with a woman's natural pelvic tilt can place the penis or toy in direct contact with this area, maximizing the sensation in a way that feels deeper, more filling, and more intoxicating. And when you understand this connection, you stop guessing and start creating deliberate pleasure, because every woman's body is slightly different, meaning you have to pay attention to her unique responses, watching the way her breathing changes, the way her muscles contract, the subtle moans that tell you you're in the right place, and the angle of penetration can transform an average experience into one that feels mind-blowing, because even a few degrees of change can shift the focus from general friction to precise stimulation of the nerve-rich zones, and movements that combine both in and out penetration with grinding or rocking can stimulate the external clitoris and internal structures at the same time, creating a dual stimulation effect that is scientifically proven to increase the likelihood of orgasm. And arousal isn't just about the genitals, it's about the entire body, because nerve endings exist everywhere, and building anticipation through touch, kissing, and teasing increases blood flow and sensitivity in the pelvic region, making every thrust, every rub, and every press exponentially more powerful. And understanding anatomy also means knowing how to pace the experience, because nerves can become even more responsive when stimulation builds gradually, rather than rushing to the climax, allowing her body to sink deeper into sensation. And as arousal heightens, pelvic muscles naturally contract, pulling the clitoris and G-spot slightly closer together internally, making it possible to hit both at once with the right positioning. And this is why science emphasizes angles and pelvic alignment, because they aren't random. They are the difference between average and extraordinary, between going through the motions and delivering an orgasm so deep it feels like it shakes her to her core. And in those moments when the rhythm, the angle, the pressure, and her arousal level align perfectly, the orgasm doesn't just happen in her body, it floods her entire being with a rush of endorphins, leaving her trembling, flushed, and connected in a way that lingers long after the last wave fades. Communication and sexual intimacy is not a luxury, it is the foundation that transforms a good experience into an unforgettable one, because without words, moans, whispers, and honest feedback, partners are simply guessing, and pleasure should never be a guessing game. It should be a crafted journey guided by the person experiencing it, and speaking openly about what feels good and what doesn't is not a sign of weakness or insecurity. It is the ultimate sign of sexual confidence, because it shows you value your body, your experience, and your connection. And when a woman feels safe to express her desires without judgment, her body relaxes, her mind opens, and her arousal deepens in ways silence can never achieve. And communication is not just verbal commands or instructions, it is a language of glances, breathing patterns, touches, and subtle shifts that say everything without a single word. And the most powerful lovers know how to listen with their eyes, their ears, and their fingertips, catching every cue as her body speaks. And asking questions during intimacy is not a disruption, it is an act of devotion, because does this feel good, or do you want it faster? Are invitations for her to step into control of her own pleasure. And when she answers and you respond in real time, the trust between you grows so strong that her body can surrender completely, knowing she is safe, valued, and truly seen. And silence breeds uncertainty, but communication breeds confidence, and confidence in bed is magnetic. It turns every movement into something intentional, and when you share what you like too, you remove the awkwardness, and create an environment where both people are engaged, aware, and hungry for more. and great communication starts before you even touch each other, in conversations about fantasies, boundaries, and preferences, because anticipation is part of the pleasure, and knowing in advance what she craves allows you to build a scene in her mind long before the physical act begins. And during intimacy, her tone of voice and her breathing will shift as sensations intensify. And when you notice and ask if she wants more of that exact thing, you're telling her you're not just here to take, you're here to give her exactly what her body is begging for. And dirty talk, when done with sincerity and authenticity, is another form of communication that amplifies arousal by stimulating the mind, because the brain is the largest sex organ, and words can set off a rush of adrenaline and dopamine that deepen every physical sensation. And there is no room for ego in sexual communication, because if you truly care about her orgasm, you are not afraid to be corrected, redirected, or guided, and you understand that feedback is not criticism, it's the roadmap to her pleasure. And when partners create this kind of open, judgment-free environment, the walls come down and vulnerability turns into erotic power, and that power is addictive, because once you've experienced the raw honesty of a partner who tells you exactly what they want and how they want it, nothing else will ever compare. And this is why communication is as essential to female orgasm as anatomy, because without it, even the perfect position and perfect angle can fall short, but with it, every touch can be adjusted in real time to match her arousal, her mood, and her emotional state, and she will not only reach orgasm more easily, but she will feel it more deeply, because she knows every movement is a response to her needs in that exact moment, making it not just sex but a shared creation of ecstasy. Science over myth is the only path to real, consistent, and mind-blowing pleasure, because for too long sexuality has been clouded by cultural taboos, outdated advice, and assumptions passed down without a single shred of evidence. And when you strip away the myths, you're left with the undeniable truths about the human body that can transform intimacy forever. And the female orgasm is not some mysterious rare event, it is a natural physiological response that can be understood, nurtured, and triggered when you align with what the body is designed to respond to. And science tells us that the clitoris is the central powerhouse of pleasure, its nerve density surpassing that of any other organ in the human body. And yet myths still try to convince women that penetration alone should be enough, when studies show that over 70% of women require direct or indirect clitoral stimulation to climax, and ignoring that fact is not just ineffective, it's neglecting the single most important key to her ecstasy. And science also proves that arousal is not just physical, it's mental, with the brain playing a dominant role in initiating and amplifying sexual response. And this means that fantasies, emotional connection, and mental stimulation can be as critical as the movements of your hands or hips. And myths that tell women they are too complicated only serve to silence them, when in truth their bodies follow precise biological patterns that anyone willing to learn can master. And blood flow to the pelvic region is essential for heightened sensitivity, which is why extended foreplay is not optional, it's physiological preparation. And pelvic alignment in certain positions can directly stimulate both external and internal structures simultaneously, which is why positions that allow grinding, rocking, or upward thrust angles can create the dual stimulation proven to increase orgasm probability. And science shatters the myth that orgasms must be short, because with sustained stimulation and without rushing, women are capable of multiple, rolling orgasms as muscle contractions continue to build and release. And knowing this changes everything about how you approach pace, rhythm, and breaks, and hormones released during orgasm like oxytocin and endorphins deepen emotional bonds and reduce stress, making sexual connection both a physical and emotional act of health. And this is not just pleasure, it's medicine for the mind and body. And science also exposes the myth that there is one perfect position or technique for every woman, because anatomy varies, clitoral placement, pelvic tilt, nerve sensitivity, and this is why experimentation guided by her feedback is critical. And the truth is that positions recommended by research are not magic spells, they are starting points for discovery, and only through paying attention to her unique responses can you fine-tune them into perfection. And science dismantles shame by showing that sexual desire and orgasm are natural,
healthy functions that the body is wired for, not indulgences to be suppressed. And the more we learn about sexual response, the clearer it becomes that open conversation, anatomy knowledge, and psychological comfort are inseparable in creating consistent pleasure, and myths that frame orgasm as rare or difficult become irrelevant in the face of research, showing that with the right stimulation, over 90% of women can reach climax. And this isn't a matter of luck, it's a matter of applying what works, discarding what doesn't, and replacing blind trial and error with intentional, informed action. And science empowers lovers to become skilled, confident, and creative without wasting years guessing, because it gives you the blueprint, and when you follow it, her pleasure stops being uncertain and starts being inevitable. Pleasure is amplified when both bodies are fully present in the moment, because the mind can be the greatest ally or the biggest barrier to orgasm, and when distractions, insecurities, or self-conscious thoughts creep in, they pull energy away from the sensations building inside the body. But when focus is locked in on every touch, every sound, every movement, the body responds with an intensity that feels electric. And being present means noticing the heat of skin against skin, the way breathing synchronizes, the way muscles tense and release with every shift, because in those moments you are not thinking about what's next, you are drinking in what is happening right now. And presence is not passive, it's active engagement with the moment, leaning into the pleasure and letting it consume every sense. And when a woman is present, her brain releases more dopamine, amplifying the sensitivity of her nerve endings, making every stroke, every kiss, every grind send stronger signals through her nervous system. And this heightened awareness creates a feedback loop of arousal, where her body invites more pleasure simply by noticing it. And the same is true for her partner, because when you are completely in the moment, you notice the tiny details that guide you to her climax, the way her hips press into you at a certain angle, the way her moan changes pitch when you hit the right spot, the way her thighs tighten when she's on the edge, and you respond instantly, keeping the rhythm and intensity exactly where it needs to be. And being present means letting go of ego, of the need to perform, and replacing it with genuine connection, because great sex is not about proving anything, it's about giving and receiving fully, and presence deepens that exchange until it feels primal, raw, and overwhelming. And science proves that mindfulness increases the likelihood and intensity of orgasm, because it quiets the analytical part of the brain and allows the sensory part to take over. And when both partners breathe together, move together, and focus entirely on sensation, the world outside disappears, leaving only the heat and the connection. And in this space there is no past, no future, just the build, the crest, and the crash of ecstasy. And presence also enhances trust, because when someone gives you their undivided attention, you feel valued, desired, and safe to let go completely. And when she feels that safety, her body opens, her movements become freer, and her responses become more instinctive and uninhibited. And presence means adjusting instinctively, without being told, because you're so in tune with her that you can feel when she needs more pressure, slower strokes, or deeper thrusts. And that kind of intuitive alignment only happens when you are mentally and physically locked into her experience, not thinking about technique, not wondering about performance, but riding the waves of her pleasure as if they were your own. And this is why the most unforgettable orgasms happen when both people are lost in each other, because every nerve, every heartbeat, and every breath is part of the same rhythm. And when the climax finally hits, it doesn't just happen to her, it happens to both of you, a shared explosion of sensation that leaves you trembling, gasping, and completely connected in the aftermath. And this connection lingers, because being present during intimacy isn't just about better sex, it's about creating an experience so intense and immersive that it becomes etched into memory, replaying in the mind long after the bodies have separated, drawing you back to each other again and again with the hunger to feel it all over again. Foreplay is not a warm-up, it is an essential part of the sexual experience that can define the intensity and depth of orgasm, because it primes the body, floods it with blood flow, and wakes every nerve ending in ways that direct penetration alone never can. And when done with patience and skill, foreplay turns arousal into an unstoppable current that pulls her toward release, because the body responds to gradual buildup with heightened sensitivity, making every touch feel sharper, hotter, and more consuming, and the skin is the largest erogenous zone, with millions of nerve endings waiting to be activated through lips, fingertips, and breath. And when you explore her slowly, moving from light teasing strokes to deeper, firmer touches, you send signals to her brain that pleasure is coming, and her body reacts by increasing lubrication, swelling the clitoris, and making the G-spot more prominent. And science confirms that extended arousal time increases orgasm likelihood because the pelvic muscles are fully engaged, the blood vessels are engorged, and the sensory pathways are firing at maximum capacity. And foreplay is not just about genitals, it's about creating an atmosphere where every inch of her body is invited to join the experience, from her neck to her thighs, from her fingertips to her toes, because the brain connects these sensations into one unified sexual state, and the power of anticipation cannot be overstated, because the longer the desire builds, the more explosive the release becomes, and every kiss, every whispered word, every lingering touch feeds that anticipation, making her ache for the moment you finally give her exactly what she's been craving. And when you combine oral stimulation with teasing touches around her inner thighs, hips, and lower abdomen, you awaken the deep internal structures of the clitoral network without overwhelming her too quickly, and alternating between intense stimulation and brief pauses keeps her mind locked in, her body begging for more. And foreplay is also emotional, because eye contact, soft laughter, and genuine attention dissolve tension and create safety, and when she feels safe, her arousal is unrestrained, her responses are uninhibited, and her orgasms are deeper. And great lovers treat foreplay as a dance, moving between slow sensual movements and moments of wild intensity, because this variation confuses the nervous system in the best possible way, keeping her on the edge and making every second unpredictable, and touching, kissing, licking, and holding her in ways that acknowledge every curve and contour of her body tells her she is worshipped, and that worship translates into trust, which translates into surrender, and when she surrenders, her body stops holding back, letting waves of pleasure crash over her without resistance, and the myth that foreplay is just for women is shattered when both partners fully engage in it, because shared exploration builds connection and magnifies arousal for everyone involved. And when foreplay is treated as an art, not a chore, orgasms stop being a possibility and start being a certainty, because you've turned her entire body into a hypersensitive, aching map of pleasure, ready to explode the moment you decide to take her over the edge.